Hello, everybody. Today we're going to be doing a little intro into World War II. I know with the schedule today, there's going to be a handful of you guys who are going to be presenting your fireside chat projects or recording it. So you're going to be in and out. So I figured this would be the best way to kind of go through a lecture. There won't be any notes required, but I did want to discuss some intro type stuff to kind of give you some ideas and some themes that I want to discuss. So here's the PowerPoint that we're going to be doing. Again, there's no notes for this. Just kind of listen, watch, be engaged. If you have any questions or anything, please jot them down, and I'll be happy to answer them some point later on. Let's go. There we go. All right. So obviously, we're in our World War II unit. Some goals for the unit that we're going to be talking about. One, what were some of the causes of World War II? Pretty complex, a lot of something back from World War I, as we'll get to. Two, what were some of the sacrifices that all Americans made to pitch in for the war effort? As you'll see, I even tweeted out some things last week. Here at home, it was all about the war. What can you do as an individual? What can you do as a business? What could the government do to prep for the war, to give our men and women what they needed to fight? Three, how did the government prep for war? As we just talked about, that's going to be complete, basically all about the war. Nothing else matters. Four, probably one of the most important questions is why fight? It's a very maybe different answer compared to previous wars. And I guess the one thing that we'll be talking about is good versus evil. Some people say that this generation, the World War II generation, that is the greatest generation of Americans that have ever been around. Because they fought against insurmountable odds. They put their lives on the line for a cause such as this. When you have, Hitler killing 6 million Jews, and you had all this hate going on in the world, they answered the call. And this group, as well, in terms of after the war, will also be a big part in terms of our growth of the country as well. And the fifth thing that I want you guys to get out of it is understand why many people consider this the greatest group of Americans, as I just talked about. So those are your 5 goals. All right. So overall, from beginning of this unit to the end, I want you guys to think about the theme of good versus evil. And yes, I have kind of some crazy photos here in terms of Hitler with the iPhone. Yes, there was no iPhone. That was just something I found that was whatever. And then Dr. Evil. The left side of the screen, you have your good. You have Winston Churchill up on top. You have Charles de Gaulle in France, FDR, who fought against evil, who wanted to fight against tyranny and oppression of people and lack of rights. And then you have in the 1920s and 30s, you had these rise of dictators that did not provide rights to the people, that in some cases killed their own people. Obviously, as we just talked about, Hitler killed 6 million Jews during the course of the Holocaust. You have Mussolini, very similar thing in terms of squashing some rights in Italy, killing some of his own people. Then you have Hideki Tojo in Japan and what he did to the Chinese, killing millions. So that's what dictators do. They don't provide rights, and anybody who does not fall in line with their belief system, it's either arrest or kill. So that's one of the themes that we're going to be talking about more today. All right. So as I just talked about, what are we fighting for? I think this slide really says a lot. I know many of you guys probably have learned about the Holocaust in the past, especially last year in Global. I know if you had me, we spent a whole 2-week unit on genocide, looking at some of the other genocides besides the Holocaust. But just look at these pictures here. I mean, you have mass graves, and just look at basically these individuals are down to skin and bones, being overworked, families separated. In the last year in Global, I'm hoping you guys really got this, that this wasn't just what the Nazis did to Jews all across Europe. It was a very detailed plan. can't think about that. You took them from their homes, rounded up their belongings. You transferred from their homes to these little ghettos, these blocks of the city where you kept all Jews in all throughout Europe. Then, as they were housed in these ghettos, they were building the death camps, Auschwitz and Dachau. Once those are ready, then he transported from the ghettos to those camps where they started the extermination process. Now, the two photos at the very bottom middle and bottom right of your screen, those are of Japanese camps in terms of what the Japanese did to our POWs. A POW is a prisoner of war. Very similar in terms of malnutrition and overwork. Again, if you didn't fall in line, obviously you would be killed. And we'll be talking about examples in class, like the Bataan Death March. If you've ever seen the movie Unbroken, that's again another prime example of some of the treatment that the Japanese had on our soldiers. Kind of comparing this to World War I, as you guys can see, here's some of the World War I numbers compared to World War II. In terms of military deaths, the Soviet Union, 13.6 million deaths in World War II. So, and if you look back to World War I, you have 1.7 deaths, 1.7 million. So obviously World War II was much more devastating. On top of that, you also had 7.7 million civilian deaths. So Soviet Union alone had close to 20 million people dead in World War II. Germany, 3.2 million. Compare that to World War I, 1.8 million at the bottom. So you look at both the military deaths as well as civilians. Again, you're talking about 30 to 40 million people, actually more than that, worldwide. I mean, that's, again, a huge part of the population. All right, so one of the big stories of World War II, I guess prior to that, was the 1936 Olympics. This was before World War II started. So keep in mind that throughout the 30s, Hitler's rising to power. He gets elected. Most people think that he just took power. No, he was actually elected by the people of Germany into power. And throughout the 30s, he was building up Nazi Germany, building the economy. He was basically ignoring the Treaty of Versailles. He wasn't paying back the war debt. He was building up his army, which he wasn't supposed to. He was regaining lands that he wasn't supposed to do. And in this process, all the former Allied powers, they're just kind of letting him do it. They're appeasing him. And we'll talk more about appeasement later on. Long story short, that Germany in the 20s was a massive struggle. As we talked about in class, the inflation, poverty, unemployment, they were devastated from the treaty. Well, in the 30s, Germany starts to become on the rise and Hitler is fixing the problems in Germany. So they were picked to host the Olympics, to kind of be an economic boost to them and to showcase kind of where Germany is heading. And in that process, Hitler does some things. Basically, what he tries to do, he tries to basically hide some of the racial superiority, racial theories that he has. He makes all the shop owners in Germany take down anti-Jewish signs, and he basically just tries to put on a show, essentially, for the world. He gets rid of all the homeless out of the city, transports them somewhere else. He wants to make Germany look like it's like the best city in the world. So, long story short, you have the 1936 Olympics. And a guy by the name of Jesse Owens. He's a Cleveland connection. He was born in the Cleveland area, went to Ohio State, African-American athlete, and he was in track and field, and he performed in the 1936 Olympics. Long story short, he ended up winning 4 gold medals, broke a record. And obviously this goes against a lot of the theories of the Nazis in terms of the Aryan race is the superior race. We're the superior athlete. But when you have Jesse Owens, who's African-American, who's not Aryan, who defeats Aryan athletes, that was really in terms of the world, for those that knew kind of what Hitler was doing, kind of went against completely what that theory was. There's a little Cleveland connection there. And then theory goes, it goes where when Jesse Owens was being crowned with the gold medal, Hitler refused to salute him or recognize him. That was kind of put in the press and stuff all throughout the world. That Hitler was mad that that he won, whatever. So here are the Nazi 10 Commandments. Again, a big part of Nazi Germany was a big part of it was growing the population. So these were actual commandments that the Nazis would give to women, especially. They had big roles in Nazi Germany. Their goal was to basically have kids, be subordinate to your husband, have as many kids as you can, grow the Aryan race. So you can read this for yourself, that you should only get married and reproduce if you're healthy. If you're not healthy, not have kids. Sometimes they would sterilize you. In some cases, kill you. So again, it wasn't just Jews that were killed. He targeted mentally handicapped. He targeted handicapped people because, again, he only wanted the strong. He only wanted the pure. He only wanted the healthy to reproduce, to grow the perfect race. So again, if you're a woman, as a German, you choose only a spouse of the same Nordic blood. So you only marry of your own Nordic race. Ask about your ancestors. So if you're dating somebody, you need to ask them about their ancestors. Are they pure Nordics? Are they pure Aryans? You want somebody that's pure. Let's see here. Kind of just trying to skim. Number 10, you should want to have as many kids as possible. And you were actually given like awards for this. If you had 5 kids, you got a gold medal. If you got 3 to 4, you would be getting silver and so forth. So again, the goal was as many kids as possible. All right. So kind of going in this evil theme. Nazi experimentation was notorious. They used Jews, they used other prisoners to do awful experiments. As you'll see here with this one, they had the oxygen chamber test. So this was used to test for Nazi pilots, how high they can go, how long that they can live at different altitudes in case something were to go wrong up in the air. How long could they live at different altitudes? So they do these different tests on Jews where they would hook these different oxygen chambers up to a person and pump you full of air and pressures until basically you died. They would time you to see how long you would last at different altitude heights. So that was one experiment. Seawater injections. So, okay, if a pilot crashed or a sailor, the boat sunk and you were in salt water, in an ocean, how long could you live off of drinking salt water? So they would inject you with salt water, kind of time you out before you died, kind of see how much water that you can consume over a period of time. So they would experiment with that. How long could you live with different injections or bacteria living in your body? So they would slice you open and put bacteria, diseases into your body, glass. So again, they would experiment that way to get data. Hypothermia. Again, if a pilot, sailor, whatever, was in the water, submerged, how long could they live in different temperatures, climates? So they would have different water temperatures, basically just time you out, see how long that you can live in the elements before you died of hypothermia. This is one of the most sicker ones. The Germans had a fascination with twins. Why twins? I told you before that the big thing was growing the Aryan population. What better way to do that than by having twins? You have 2 kids at once. So the Nazis and their doctors were fascinated with twins and studies and genetics.